Thank you, Governor Murphy. Thanks for coming back to Hillsborough. Sean, to all of the officials here who have helped us get to this point of almost full recovery. I know there's still much more work to be done. Sean, your story reminded me of my own. We were in Washington the day the storm hit, and of course, like everybody else, we did not expect it to be what it was. At some point that evening, I got a message from one of my neighbors in East Amwell telling me that there was water on the street above my house. And I couldn't believe it because that had never happened before. My house was built in the 18th century. And so I knew this was bad. The next morning, I tried to get back. There were no trains. Finally found somebody to drive me home, and our first stop was Hillsborough before even seeing what had happened to my house. And you were there, Governor, and we began the process that continues today to help people overcome the horrific tragedy that we all experienced together. We all remember the images of that day. We remember the pain of losing 30 New Jerseyans to the floods. We remember the heroism of the first responders. If not for them, 30 would have been 300 or far more. We remember the extraordinary apocalyptic images, the Somerset County Patriot Stadium engulfed in water. The image that really stuck with me, because it was so scary, was the image of water almost overwhelming the Raritan Millstone Water Treatment Facility, which serves this whole region of central New Jersey. And there's an important story there, because in 2018, that water treatment facility spent some money to raise their flood walls by 4 feet. And the goal was to be prepared for a 500-year storm. Think about that, 500-year storm. And the floodwaters from Ida came within 3 feet of overwhelming those new flood walls, right? And we know that the next storm, if we don't take the actions that we should, could even be worse. So we all worked together. We got the emergency declaration from the president. We got FEMA in very rapidly. We got assistance from FEMA to around 8,500 households in Somerset County alone, many more across the state of New Jersey. As we heard, a lot of help from municipalities for the county to help rebuild. I worked with Somerset County on a lot of these grants, including a federal grant to restore the trails along the Raritan River. I worked with you, Sean, on funding that we passed in the House of Representatives in the federal budget for Hillsborough as part of your recovery and rebuilding effort. But here's my central point today. That's not nearly enough, because we cannot continue this endless cycle, you referred to it, Governor, this endless cycle of flooding and rebuilding, flooding and rebuilding. That's no way to live. We need two things that we are actually taking action on in the United States Congress. It's rare to be able to say that, but it is true today. Number one, we need to invest billions and billions of dollars in this country in making our infrastructure and our communities more resilient. In that Ida relief bill that we got through Congress very quickly after the emergency, we managed to get money in that bill to help the Army Corps of Engineers finally complete the Greenbrook Flood Control Project, which began in the 1970s. Absolutely essential to protect this whole area of central New Jersey against flooding. And in the infrastructure bill that passed last year, $17 billion for the Army Corps to do that kind of engineering work, and billions of dollars more to help communities across this country better plan for and protect themselves against flooding. That's absolutely essential. And it's also essential that all of us in New Jersey and beyond update our rules, our stormwater management practices, to take into account the weather that's happening today, right? Not the weather that was happening 20 or 30 years ago. So that's job one. Job two is recognizing that as a country And as a global community, we've got to do something about weather that is killing us. We have to do something about the underlying causes of these extreme, increasingly extreme storms that are affecting every part of this country. In New Jersey, we know there's no debate in New Jersey that climate change is real. To us, climate change is it's 5 feet of water in your basement. It's the Hillsborough fire and police departments becoming a navy and rescuing people in boats from their homes far away from any coastline. And we've got to do something. And fortunately, to some, I would say surprisingly, this summer Congress actually did something. We passed the biggest investment in the history of this country, in the history of any country, in fighting climate change. Investments that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions in this country and reduce the pollution that makes the air we breathe unsafe by 40% by the year 2030 and enable the United States to be the leader that we must in bringing the entire world in this direction, while helping us also improve our economy by being the world leader in building the clean energy technologies of the future. That's incredibly important. That's a game changer. That's what we need to do to make sure these storms don't get worse and worse and worse, so that, that water treatment plant doesn't have to build 10 more feet, 20 more feet of flood wall against what would happen if we were not taking those types of actions. So we're here today to look back a year, but it's much more important that we look ahead, that we plan for the future. We're beginning to do that at the federal level in the United States, thanks to all the representatives that you guys sent there over the last few years, and I'm absolutely committed to continuing to make that progress with you. Thank you again so very much.